I have fought the good fight, I have given everything. But now is the time for me to find out what else life has to offer.
Annastacia Palaszczuk calling it quits after nearly 9 years in the job.
I don't believe anyone who comes after me will know how humbling it is to travel this state and meet so many amazing people.
The 39th leader of Queensland dubbed the accidental premier after she pulled off a surprise Labor victory in 2015, taking the party from just 7 seats to a whopping 44.
I said that the first election would be like climbing Mount Everest. I went on to climb that mountain twice more. I don't need to do it again.
Since then, the outgoing premier has faced down 63 natural disasters plus a global pandemic.
I am sick of being attacked for Queensland doing a great job.
But in recent months, her popularity has hit a steep decline.
Queensland's now known as a state of crime.
Well, the youth crime crisis is real.
Out with Anna! Out with Anna!
Palaszczuk saying she started thinking about retirement during her controversial 2-week Italian holiday in August.
Where are you?
Leadership is about making sure that you are around in the moments that matter.
We are seeing ministers lining up day after day, auditioning for the top job.
Will you be staying on as the Labor Premier? Absolutely.
Everyone deserves a break. Finally, last week, my mind was made up at National Cabinet. There were all these new faces around the Cabinet table. I thought to myself, renewal is a good thing.
Insisting the decision to leave was her own.
I still have the support of the entire party and the Labor movement.
The country's last remaining pandemic premier bowing out. Her successor will be chosen on Friday.
Thank you to my Cabinet and my staff. Thank you to the Labor Party, to all of our frontline workers, but most of all, thank you to every single Queensland. Sorry. It's been the greatest on my life, and our best days are well and truly ahead of us.
Well, The Guardian's political reporter Amy Remeikis is here. Amy, resigned or in the process of being pushed?
A little bit of both. In the end, it was Annastacia Palaszczuk's own choosing when she was going to go, but there has been a lot of agitation, especially over the last 6 months as the Labor government started to look closer to next year and their election and that need for renewal. They're not doing great in the polls. People are starting to turn against the government and the Premier herself. So people were starting to look for a fresh start. But she surprised everyone by doing it this morning.
Her popularity has been on a steep decline recently. Why do you think that is, Amy?
It's a little bit about being in a third-term government. I mean, those governments never tend to be overly popular. People start to get a little bit bored and challenged by the lack of change and promises that aren't being kept or aren't being seen to be kept. But also, after the pandemic and those sky-high levels of popularity, I think people started to just look at Annastacia Palaszczuk and wonder what it was she was going to be doing for them in the future.
Well, speaking of the pandemic, she's the last of the pandemic premiers. Do you think we'll ever see a time when premiers wield as much power as they did in those years?
No, I don't think so, unless we have another global pandemic in our lifetimes. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, politicians are not our friends and they certainly shouldn't be your heroes. So holding up any politician on that sort of pedestal is always a recipe for failure because they're never going to meet up to it.
Big burn. Amy, what have the pollies done to you?
Been around me, effectively. I've spent a lot of time with politicians and, yeah, I'm sure they'd say the same thing about me as well. Don't ever make reporters your heroes either.
She has endorsed Deputy Premier Stephen Miles as her potential successor. Does it look like he'll be the next Premier of Queensland?
Oh, it's a bit tough, that one. It's about a 3-horse contest at the moment between Stephen Miles, the Health Minister, Shannon Fentiman, and the Treasurer, Cameron Dick. And so all of those conversations are happening now. They've been happening over the last couple of months, and we'll find out next week. But it is going to be a bit of a change, and it's going to be interesting to see whether the rest of the ministry, which has stayed pretty much the same as when Annastacia Palaszczuk first became Premier, also gets a bit of a revamp.
So there's a state election due next year, as you mentioned. If Labor loses, and at the moment it looks like they could well, what's her legacy?
Yeah, it's not looking too great for Labor, although Anna Bligh did manage to turn it around for a very short period and get re-elected, although then Labor was reduced to 7 MPs. So winning the next election may not be the best thing for Labor. But in terms of a legacy, it's really hard. I mean, the Olympics are coming on, but I think in the end, Annastacia Palaszczuk was always labelled the accidental premier, but she was in there for 9 years. She's changed the state, and I guess it's up to voters to decide whether that was good or bad in the end.
Amy Remeikis, thanks for your time.
Thank you.